Hey everybody! Today I have a quick video on 3D gilded embossing using some techniques I've used before with a 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders. This is called Decorative Applause. Now what I did is I took the embossing folder and I embossed a piece of Stampin' Up! Cold press watercolor paper. And you can see this beautiful detail that I get. I love how there are areas that are raised more than others on these embossing folders. That's what gives it that 3D look. It makes it a lot of fun for this technique. So what I'm doing here is just covering the watercolor paper with water. I used an eyedropper because that really quickly lets me really saturate the whole piece of watercolor paper. I'm doing some free range watercoloring, and so I wanted it to be really wet. And so I just wanted the water to pool, and the eyedropper really helps with that. So if you have a good sturdy watercolor paper like this, I definitely recommend that. Then I'm just very randomly picking up some of my Brusho watercolor. You guys know I absolutely love these pigments. And I'm just lightly touching a brush with some of the pigment on it to the wet areas and letting it sort of just do whatever it wants to do. I'm using one of my favorite color schemes, of course, complementary color scheme. And somebody pointed out today when I showed a little sneak peek of this project that I sort of used Mardi Gras colors, and I think I did sort of use Mardi Gras colors. Now I wanted to tell you about a little hack that I figured out in case you do not have a grand caliber machine from Spellbinders. You can still use these beautiful embossing folders in a Big Shot Pro if you have a Big Shot Pro. And if you follow me at all, you know that I got like this crazy steal on a Big Shot Pro on a Black Friday a couple years ago. So, since that was out, I decided to see if I could figure out the sandwich order for one of these 3D hinged embossing folders. And I did. It was super easy. You start with a tray, and then you use the adapter pad, of course, 2 cutting plates, the large premium crease pad that comes with the Big Shot Pro, the embossing folder, and then on top of the embossing folder, so of course you put your watercolor paper in there. On top of the embossing folder, I just use the crease pad from my regular sized Big Shot on top of that. And then an embossing mat, I use the one from ScorePal. And then you put another cutting plate on top of that whole sandwich and run it through, and you get this beautiful 3D look. So here I'm just kind of doing finishing touches, really making sure the watercolor goes, you know, kind of in a square, because I'm going to make a 6x6 card out of this. These embossing folders are nice and large, and this is actually going to be my Mother's Day card. So I know my mother reads my blog, so you're getting a sneak peek of your Mother's Day card. Act surprised in a couple weeks when you get it. I just want to make sure there's enough color everywhere and that it gives kind of a vivid look when it's dry. So you can see I'm pulling out one of my favorite things, my Viva Decor Inka Gold rub, and one of my disposable washcloths. And I know it says on the instructions to put the Viva Decor on with a cloth, but I find that I really have better control if I just use my finger. So I just grab a little bit of the rub and start highlighting these beautiful raised details on the watercolor paper. This is so easy, and it's just amazing how it makes the design pop. Now you can do this with any embossing folder. I have another video that I'll link you to on how to use this, not with an embossing folder, but with some raised elements on your card to give this beautiful antiqued look that this gold rub gives. Now if the rub gets a little bit dry, I've had this jar for years. You really don't need much. You can always just add a little bit of water or dip your finger in water to make the rub go on more easily. But it is a paste, and it's fine if it's a little bit thick. You'll see me dusting off some little drier areas as the rub accumulates on my finger a little bit. Now I want to highlight the edges of the main panel. That's where I'm going to be putting my greeting, as well as just the edge details. This embossing folder is called Decorative Applause, and it has a beautiful amount of detail around that center frame that is perfect for this Viva decor. So I'm just going to make sure that everything is highlighted. Now, you may want to add shims when you're using this embossing folder to make sure that you get all of the 3D elements. Like I said, some areas are raised more than others. You can see on these edges, I'm picking up a little bit of detail right there. And that really shows up when you add the gold rub. But it's one of the really cool things about having some lower areas and some areas that are more prominent. The back, of course, is also gorgeous. If you wanted to do sort of a letterpress technique, you could definitely do that. But I love this gilded details look. I just think it's so vivid and fun. And now you want to take your disposable washcloth and just buff the area that you've added the Viva decor to. This adds a shine to the gold areas and really finishes the project off nicely. It's much better than just leaving it with the rub unburnished. So definitely take the time to do that extra step. And then all I had to do on this card to finish it off was use that beautiful raised center panel as the platform for just a simple greeting. This is from Hand Pinned Holidays from Stampin' Up. And it just says "with love," and I just embossed it in gold embossing powder. I think with all the beautiful detail here, that's all it needed. Thanks so much for watching.